the phenomenon of a man who guards his heart, while simultaneously harboring deep feelings, is one of the most complex paradoxes in modern dating. At first glance, his behavior can seem like a frustrating riddle. He is present but distant, attentive but silent, and protective yet emotionally elusive. However, this wall isn't built out of a lack of interest, but rather as a survival mechanism against the sheer intensity of his own emotions. For many men, the realization that they are falling triggers a primitive defense response. They view vulnerability not as a gateway to intimacy, but as a loss of control. When a man likes you too much, the stakes of the relationship shift, from a casual connection to a potential life-altering event. This shift creates a profound fear of rejection and abandonment, leading him to instinctively pull back just as things are getting good. Understanding these signs is the key to navigating a relationship. With a man who is terrified of how much power you hold over his happiness, this guardedness often stems from past experiences, perhaps a childhood, where emotions were sidelined, or previous heartbreaks that left deep scars. In his mind, keeping you at arm's length is a way to risk manage his heart. He is constantly performing a mental tug-of-war. One side of him desperately wants to dive into the connection and experience the joy of being fully known, while the other side is screaming for him to stay safe behind his fortifications. This internal conflict manifests in the 15 subtle behaviors we have explored, ranging from the way he overanalyzes your text messages to the sudden, unexplained distance he creates after a weekend of perfect harmony. He isn't trying to play games or lead you on. He is simply trying to figure out how to be in love, without losing the version of himself that knows how to survive alone. For the woman on the receiving end of this behavior, it requires a unique blend of patience and perception. It is easy to misinterpret his guard as coldness or a sign that he is losing interest. But in reality, the higher the walls, the more precious the treasure they are protecting. A guarded man won't give you grand, cinematic declarations of love right away. Instead, he will give you micro-commitments, remembering your favorite coffee order, showing up when you're in trouble, or lingering in your presence just a few seconds longer than a friend would. These are his ways of saying "I love you" in a language that feels safe to him. By recognizing these 15 signs, you gain a roadmap into his inner world, allowing you to see past the armor and connect with the man who is quietly, cautiously, and deeply falling for you. It is a slow burn, but for those who have the patience to wait for the walls to come down, the resulting connection is often the most loyal and enduring of all. He pulls back after moments of deep connection. When a man experiences a profound emotional breakthrough with you, it can often trigger an internal alarm if he isn't used to such intensity. To him, that moment of pure vulnerability feels like losing control, which is a terrifying prospect for someone who has built high walls. This withdrawal isn't a sign that he didn't enjoy the connection. Rather, it is a defensive reflex designed to restore his sense of independence and safety. By creating physical or emotional distance, he is attempting to cool down the feelings that feel too hot to handle. You might notice he disappears for a few days or becomes briefly formal after a night of soul-bearing. Conversation. This oscillation is his way of processing the fact that you have reached a part of him he usually keeps under lock and key. He is essentially recalibrating his internal compass before he feels safe enough to venture back toward the flame of your shared intimacy. He becomes noticeably nervous or clumsy around you. A man who is guarded because of the weight of his feelings will often lose his usual composure when you are in the room. When the stakes are low, he can be charismatic and smooth. But when he truly values your opinion, his brain short-circuits under the pressure of wanting to appear perfect. This manifests as physical awkwardness, tripping over words, fumbling with his phone, or even a visible tremor in his hands. This jitteriness is a biological byproduct of an adrenaline spike. He is essentially in a state of high alert because your presence matters so much to him. He is hyper-aware of how he is being perceived, leading to a self-consciousness that disrupts his natural flow. While he might try to mask it with a stoic exterior, the cracks in his armor show through these small, uncontrollable physical tells. His body is betraying the very emotions. His guarded mind is trying desperately to hide from you. He remembers the smallest details you've shared. One of the most telling indicators of a guarded man's deep affection is the incredible databank he keeps regarding your life. While he might be hesitant to share his own secrets, he is a dedicated student of yours. He will surprise you by referencing a passing comment you made weeks ago about a favorite childhood snack or a specific fear you mentioned in confidence. This level of active listening is a sign that he is deeply invested in understanding your world, even if he isn't ready to let you fully into his. For a guarded person, knowledge is a form of security. By knowing everything about you, he feels he can better navigate the relationship and avoid potential pitfalls. This attention to detail proves that while his mouth might stay closed about his feelings, his mind is constantly focused on you. It is his way of showing love without having to use the actual words that make him feel exposed. He tests your reaction to see if you'll leave. A man who is afraid of how much he likes you will often engage in subconscious testing. Because he feels that his feelings have made him weak, he may create small hurdles or act slightly difficult to see if you are truly committed to staying. This isn't usually a conscious or malicious game. It is a desperate search for reassurance. He might bring up a polarizing opinion or mention a flaw of his, waiting with bated breath to see if you will judge him or walk away. He is looking for a reason to believe that you won't abandon him once his guard is completely dropped. If you pass these tests with patience and consistency, it slowly dismantles his fear. However, the tragedy is that he often pushes the hardest against the person he wants to keep the most. He is essentially trying to prove his own insecurities, wrong by seeing if your affection can withstand his complexity. He overanalyzes your every word and action. To a guarded man, every text message, tone of voice, or brief silence is a puzzle that needs to be solved. Because he is so protective of his heart, he scans your behavior for any sign of impending rejection or cooling interest. If you take a little longer to reply, his mind might spiral into a dozen different scenarios, where he has done something wrong or where you have found someone better. This hypervigilance is a direct result of how much power he has unknowingly given you over his emotional state. He is constantly looking for red flags as a way to prepare himself for a potential breakup before it can actually hurt him. This mental exhaustion stems from the fact that he is fighting a war between his logic, which tells him to stay safe, and his heart, which is already fully submerged in his feelings for you. Every interaction is scrutinized for hidden meanings because he is terrified of being blindsided by a change in your feelings. He uses humor or sarcasm to deflect deep emotion. When the conversation steers toward territory that feels too intimate or revealing, a guarded man will often use wit as a shield. Humor serves as a convenient exit ramp. By making a joke, he effectively breaks the tension and resets the emotional temperature of the room. This deflection is a sophisticated defense mechanism that allows him to stay engaged with you without having to be heavy or vulnerable. If you pay close attention, you'll notice he often cracks a joke right after a moment of genuine sweetness or after he accidentally reveals a personal truth. He is terrified that if things get too serious, he won't be able to handle the depth of the connection. So he uses sarcasm to maintain a safe distance. To him, being the funny guy is much safer than being the exposed guy. It's a way to keep you smiling while ensuring that his deepest fears and feelings remain tucked safely behind a layer of clever wordplay. He is protective without being possessive. A guarded man who is deeply in love will often express his feelings through silent, protective actions rather than grand verbal declarations. You might notice him walking on the street side of the sidewalk, checking in to ensure you got home safely, or showing genuine concern for your well-being when you're stressed. Unlike possessiveness, which is rooted in control and ego, his protectiveness is rooted in a sincere desire for your safety and happiness, because he isn't ready to tell you that you're the most important person in his world. He shows it by being your unofficial guardian. This behavior allows him to fulfill a hero role that feels masculine and safe, while avoiding the scary, emotional vulnerability of admitting how much he actually cares. He wants to be your rock and your safe harbor, providing a sturdy presence in your life that speaks volumes about his commitment, even while his lips remain sealed about his long-term intentions. He only opens up in small, controlled bursts. You may find that he shares deeply personal stories or thoughts only in very specific environments, perhaps late at night, in a dark car, or after a long day of bonding. These windows of vulnerability are brief and often followed by a period of total emotional lockdown. This behavior is his way of testing the waters. He gives you a small piece of his soul to see how you handle it. If you react with empathy and without judgment, he notes it down as a win for trust. However, he rarely lets the floodgates open all at once, because the sensation of being fully known is overwhelming to him. He treats his inner life like a highly classified file, granting you access one page at a time. This controlled sharing ensures that he never feels too exposed, allowing him to maintain a sense of power over his own narrative, while slowly letting you into the inner sanctum of his heart. He avoids prolonged eye contact during vulnerable moments. While he may have no trouble looking at you during a casual chat, his gaze will often shift away when things get emotionally charged. Eye contact is one of the most intimate forms of human connection, often described as the window to the soul, and for someone trying to hide a massive amount of affection, it feels like a lie detector test he is destined to fail. He fears that if he looks into your eyes for too long, you will see exactly how much he adores you. And that level of transparency feels dangerous. You might notice him looking at his hands, the horizon, or a random object while he's telling you something meaningful. This isn't a sign of dishonesty, it is a sign of overwhelming emotion. By breaking the visual connection, he is trying to keep his composure and prevent his feelings from spilling over. It's his way of staying hidden, even when he's standing right in front of you. He shows intense consistency, followed by sudden distance. This is perhaps the most confusing sign for anyone dating a guarded man. He will be the perfect partner for a week, attentive, responsive, and present, and then suddenly go quiet for several days. This push-pull dynamic is usually triggered by his own fear of how much he has let his guard down. After a period of intense consistency, his internal defense system panics, warning him that he is becoming too dependent on you for his happiness. The distance is his attempt to reclaim his emotional independence and prove to himself that he doesn't need the connection. It is a protective recoil. He retreats into his shell to process the progress of the relationship and to ensure he still has his armor intact. Once he feels grounded again, he usually reappears as if nothing happened. This cycle is an exhausting struggle between his desire for intimacy and his deeply ingrained need for self-preservation. He becomes unusually quiet when you discuss the future. For a man who is guarded because of the intensity of his feelings, the future represents a massive commitment that he is both drawn to and terrified by. When you bring up upcoming events, vacations, or long-term goals, he might suddenly go silent or give very vague, non-committal answers. This isn't because he doesn't see you in his future. It's actually because the idea of a future with you is so appealing that it scares him. He realizes that if he starts planning a life with you, his emotional stakes will double, making a potential loss even more devastating. His silence is a way to pause the momentum, so he can catch his breath and assess the danger of his growing attachment. He is afraid that by speaking the words out loud, he is making a promise that his guarded heart isn't quite ready to defend yet, even if his soul has already decided you are the one. He drifts toward you physically but hesitates to touch. You may notice a magnetic pull where he always finds a way to be near you, sitting next to you at dinner, standing close in a crowd, or leaning into your space. Yet he rarely initiates bold physical contact. This proximity without touch is a hallmark of a man who is fighting his own impulses. He desperately wants to be close to you, but he knows that physical touch, like a hand on the small of your back or a long embrace, is a bridge he can't easily uncross. Touch releases oxytocin and deepens the bond, which is exactly what his guarded side is trying to regulate. By staying physically close, he satisfies his need for your presence, while maintaining a safety zone that prevents him from fully surrendering to the physical intimacy he craves. It's a silent dance of attraction, where his body is screaming yes, while his cautious mind is whispering wait. He listens more than he speaks. In a world of people who love to hear themselves talk, a guarded man uses silence as a strategic vantage point. He becomes an incredibly active listener, absorbing every nuance of your stories, your opinions, and your dreams. This serves two purposes. First, it keeps the spotlight off him, ensuring he doesn't have to reveal anything that might make him feel vulnerable. Second, it allows him to build a deep intellectual map of who you are. He is gathering evidence that you are a safe person to eventually trust. While it might feel like he's being mysterious or standoffish, he is actually giving you his full, undivided attention as a form of devotion. He values your voice more than his own because he is captivated by you, but he uses his relative silence as a cloak to hide the fact that he is hanging on your every word. He seems intimidated by the strength of his own feelings. Occasionally, you might catch a glimpse of genuine overwhelm in his expression or his energy. He may look at you with a mix of awe and mild panic, as if he's realized he's in over his head. For a man who prides himself on being composed and self-reliant, The realization that someone else has the power to affect his mood or his day so deeply is unsettling. He is intimidated not by you, but by the version of himself that needs you. This internal conflict can make him act stiff or overly serious at times when things should be light-hearted. He is essentially grappling with the fact that his guarded persona is losing the battle against his genuine affection. This intimidation is the ultimate compliment. It means your impact on him is so significant that it has shaken the very foundation of his emotional defenses. He stays in your life without fully moving forward. This is the limbo phase that many find frustrating, yet it is a profound sign of a guarded man's struggle. He won't leave, and he makes it clear through his actions that he wants to be around, but he hesitates to put a formal label on things or take the next big step. This hovering state is his way of maintaining the status quo where he feels safe. He has enough of you to be happy, but not so much that he feels completely exposed to the risks of a traditional relationship. He is essentially parked in your life because he likes you too much to walk away, but is too afraid of the potential for heartbreak to dive into the deep end. His presence is consistent and loyal, proving his underlying feelings. But his pace is glacial because he is meticulously checking the ice for cracks every single step of the way.